high side, lad.
Oh,
We're cooking now.
woo-hoo!
Trim it hard. Nice job.
Welcome to Trailer Sailor. In this voyage, we're so enjoying the largest freshwater lake in the country. Great sailing, lots of places to see, unbelievable history, and October in New England. Join us as we blast along gorgeous Lake Champlain, Vermont. As the boundary between the states of New York, Vermont, and the province of Quebec, Canada, this absolutely delightful body of water is easy to find and reachable on its east side by Interstate Highway 89 and by Interstate 87 on the west. At 118 miles long, there are marinas and boat ramps all over the lake. And the best thing to do when forming a sailing plan is to pick a portion of the lake in which to concentrate. Champlain is so big that it would take months to see it in its entirety. And of course, that's what the people that have boats around here spend each summer doing. I envy them that. However, if your time here is a trailer sailing vacation, the best thing to do is pick up the Lake Champlain Cruising Guide. This puppy is pretty much indispensable if you want to make the most of your time here. It's available at numerous places on the lake, but you can get one in advance by contacting the wonderful people at Willsboro Bay Marina. Now, we only have a week on Champlain, so let's get in the wind. This trailer sailing family drives Hunter Marine's largest trailerable sailboat, the H260. She is a sweet boat with lots of room below, a huge cockpit, and perhaps most importantly, easy trailerability. A water ballast boat, boat and trailer fully loaded, weigh in at under 5,000 pounds. But when you put her in the lake, she takes on an additional 2,000 pounds of ballast, making the H26 a little bit more stable than her water ballast or trailer sailing counterparts. The 260's 6-foot swing keel lets her go to weather rather well, and the lack of backstays keeps the cockpit wide open. All in all, we're very happy with Hunter's design and plan to take her wherever there's wind and water. Today, our favorite elements are located in the northeastern United States. In the month of October, just as the fall colors are starting to turn this area into a wonderland. Our base for the start of this trailer sailing adventure was Mallett's Bay Boat Club, located almost directly at the midpoint of the lake. A sailboats only marina, Mallett's Bay Boat Club is a spot any sailor would be proud to call home. As we shook out the cobwebs, we took a little spin around the bay. It was a gorgeous day, winds from the south around 18, and this bay is nicely protected from some of the big winds that sometimes prevail on the Broad Lake, as the locals call it, and it's also big enough to be a lake of its own. We asked a couple of locals their thoughts on Champlain.
There isn't another lake within 300 miles that compares to this lake. Partial to Mallett's Bay because it's somewhat sheltered. If you have a day that it's blowing hard, you can still sail out here, as opposed to the main lake, which would be very rough and windy on a day like today. So you can still get a good sail in, and it's a sheltered area to keep a boat, and then you are fairly accessible to the main lake. Plenty of places to go, cruising oriented. Almost all the towns on the lake have dockage, restaurants, accessible to the water.
I like Lake Champlain because this is where Ron taught me how to sail. The other reason, I guess, would be just the freedom of being able to go wherever you want to go and nobody basically stopping you. So it's a beautiful place to be.
It was a short day as we spent a good part of it setting up the trip and the boat, so we were glad when our newfound sailing friends invited us to raft up for the night. They'd found a decent spot in the lee of Mallet's Head, and as we settled in, we were treated to a nice sunset and some pretty pleasant company. Yet another trailer sailing adventure was underway in fine style. The next morning found us back at the guest dock at Mallet's Bay Boat Club. Given the fact that we had a lot of lake to cover, we thought it might be handy to have a spinnaker in our sail bag, and since we'd never flown one, we asked for some expert help. UK Sailmakers sent Lance Purdy with an asymmetrical chute.
Okay, symmetrical sails and asymmetrical sails are actually quite different. Symmetrical sail is called a symmetrical sail because both luffs either side of the spinnaker are exactly the same length. That's where it gets its name. And an asymmetrical sail has a luff and a leech just like a Genoa does, and the luff is longer than the leech.
Since we normally sail with only 2 adults and a little boy on board, the asymmetrical chute made the most sense for us. Lance explains the difference.
The big difference is that an asymmetrical sail requires a spinnaker pull and a complicated set of sheets and guys to run, whereas an asymmetrical spinnaker is tacked directly to the front of the boat, to the bow, and only takes one set of sheets and no pull to operate. So it's a much simpler process.
UK's asymmetrical is called a flasher, and the dowsing sock they use to control that big sail is cleverly called the stasher.
The way to install your spinnaker inside of the sock is to first lay it out so that there's no twists. Then you take the head and you attach it to a shackle that's up inside of the sock, and the way to get at that shackle is to scrunch it up, and you reach in and you'll find it in there. You can pull it out, looks like that. The next step, once the head is connected, is to take both tapes and run them. The idea here is to pull the chute together into a single strip. That makes it much easier to pull the sock over. And it also ensures that you won't have any twists when you install the sock. The final stage of installing the chute in the sock is to come back up to the head, grab the bell of the sock, and you simply pull it down over your spinnaker. One of the best things about cruising asymmetrical spinnakers is that you don't need a lot of gear to install them, but you do need a few things. One of the things you need is a set of sheet blocks which go towards the stern of your boat. One of the cleanest methods I've seen of installing them is to use, these are made by Schaefer, these are stanchion mount blocks, and you just simply put them right here on your stanchion or perhaps down here, and this will be the lead, so your chute will sheet through here and then up to a winch or a cleat as needed. You're also going to need a set of spinnaker sheets. This is a very good way to do it. It's the way I prefer to do it. This is actually one line with a snap shackle attached right in the center of the line. This single line should be 4 times the length of your boat. The way to run the sheets, I usually start from the stern, and you come through the block and you pull 6 or 8 feet of slack. Then you take the sheet up around, outside of absolutely everything. All the way out and around your forestay. So once you've let it around the forestay, attach the snap shackle to a nice spot up on your pulpit. And once it's snapped on, you go ahead and lead the other side back. Again, you go outside of everything, stays, halyards, everything. Back through your block on the other side, and then up to a winch or cleat. One of the other things you need for an asymmetrical chute is a tack line. And I like to rig it before I even go out sailing. That way it's one less thing I have to do on deck while I'm on the water. Now there's a number of ways you can rig a tack line. So what I'm going to go ahead and do on this boat is I'm simply going to rig a bowline right here through the bow pulpit. And this should be a very strong setup. There's two ways to rig the tack line in the sheets. If the sheet is run inside of the tack line when you attach the sail, when you jibe, you have to use a method which is known as inside jibing, which means that the sail comes around the forestay, but it jibes between the luff and the forestay. Now if you turn this around so that the tack comes in through like this, and this is more the typical setup for cruising, now the sail still goes around the forestay, but it goes all the way out and around its own luff when you jibe. And this is usually a simpler way to jibe with less snarls and snags, and it's generally a better way to go. Okay, first thing we do is attach the tack. We rig the tack line. Okay, what this is called a tacking strop, or sometimes just a tacker for short. It goes around your head sail as it's furled, and what it does is it allows the sail to move back and forth and up and down over your furled head sail without causing any damage. It also creates a nice firm point for the tack, which makes it much easier to trim the sail. Next, you take the sheets and attach them to the clew. Next, you attach the head of the sock or stasher to the spinnaker halyard. Some things you want to keep in mind: if you have the sheets from your jib or Genoa rolled up, they have to be inside of the head as it goes up. So you definitely don't want to hook the halyard on through here. You want to make sure it's outside like this. Attach the shackle. And this will be what hoists it up the mast.
It's time to get on the water for a little on-the-job training. All day, winds had been around 18 to 20 knots, but now they were coming and going, mostly going. Our friend Bruce Fauché agreed to steer, my wife Natalie would trim, and Lance gave the instructions. Notice how the stasher, the big sail sock, helps keep the sail organized. Really not sure you'd want to be without that sock on a cruising boat.
Get on the sheet. Trim it hard. Nice job. Keep trimming till that curl goes away. Keep going. Okay. And then once it does that, you actually start easing it back out again, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Trim a little. Bear off a little. Okay, good. Ease it back out. Good. You can really increase your horsepower by getting the shoulder out over there.
When you're talking about shoulder, what are you talking about?
The shoulder is yeah, the red line. That's actually the luff of the sail. And the shoulder is generally described as the fat part that hangs out past the forestay. And the farther you can get it to rotate out to windward, the more power you have. Now it's fine. Yeah. Do we want to go through a jibe? Okay. First thing you do on a jibe is you sheet your main in. And Bruce, you'll bear away as they sheet the main in, but here's the puff. Here's the puff. Okay. Now let's do it. Go ahead. Head down. Whoa. Let's fill it first. Trim. Okay, here we go. Jibe.
Remember, we've never done this before.
That's plenty. You're plenty. Come back down. Okay, he turned up. Whip. Whoa.
Practice makes perfect, and the first couple tries aren't.
Trim a little. No, it's good. Should fly there. Oh yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Keep trimming, keep trimming, keep trimming, keep coming up. Good, that's good. Okay, and ease it back out. Nice jibe.
Now we're getting the hang of it. When we catch a puff, you can really feel the boat power up. You can really see it too. Wow. Look at that boat move along when we get the flasher trimmed out. If you've never flown a spinnaker off the bow of your own boat, you're missing an amazing feeling when the wind fills that sail for the first time.
Come up a little. Ease now. Ease now. There we go.
Now here's what dreams are made of. Another beautiful sunset, our first serious spinnaker run. Wonder what the people in Tusk are doing right now. Finally, losing the light, the wind, and our energy, we call it a day. Thanks to Lance and UK Sailmakers, we've added wonderfully to our sailing bag of tricks. And we head back to the Mallets Bay Boat Club to celebrate with beverages full of little tiny bubbles. Most of us that sail boats under 30 feet have looked enviously at fellow sailors that have nice little dinghies dragging along behind their boats. And if you've ever paddled ashore to set a stern line in an RV surplus raft or used a water toy as a dinghy, you can really appreciate the value of an inflatable boat. In researching the trip to Lake Champlain, we felt the time had come to step up to a real dinghy. After attending the Pacific Expo Boat Show, we decided the Achilles dinghy was the one we liked. It had a combination of superior construction, durability, and good clean looks that sold us right away. Even more impressive was the air floor. No unwieldy wooden boards, just air. More on that later. Because we were sailing a 26-foot boat and storage and weight were big issues, we chose the Achilles LSI 96. As you can see here, it's what's called a roll-up dinghy. It comes in a very compact case, so it stores easily when you don't need it. And boat, seat, oars, case, and all only weigh about 80 pounds. The Achilles people include everything you need in a dinghy kit, so it's ready to go right out of the box. You simply unroll it and inflate it. The pump has a handy little air gauge included, and the owner's manual gives you a precise recommendation as to air pressure for the sides, floor, and keel. This is important if you want your dinghy to perform properly and last forever. What impressed us most about the Achilles dinghy is that it's made entirely of material manufactured with DuPont Hypalon. Now, this is probably the single most important factor when choosing a dinghy. Hypalon has proven to be a far superior material for the manufacturing of inflatable boats than PVC, which the other manufacturers use. And when layered with neoprene inside, it provides excellent air retention, while the exterior Hypalon coating offers superior UV resistance, abrasion resistance, and chemical resistance to gasoline and oil, all things that are prevalent in the marine environment. Now, while that sounds like a mouthful, it means this boat will stand up better to wind, waves, and daily use than any other we've looked at. Now, as you can see, we've inflated the sides first to a pressure of just under 3 pounds per square inch. Then we inflate the air floor. This floor is the hottest trend in inflatable boats. Essentially, the chamber inside the floor is supported by thousands of polyester threads. When the floor is pumped to around 9 pounds of pressure, the air and the threads combine to create a very firm floor that's still lightweight yet easy to store or assemble. It's very cool. We also have an air keel on this boat, another unique feature on Achilles. Like our Hunter, a keel provides for better performance, and when using a motor, better maneuverability and greater stability, which is a key attribute of an inflatable over traditional dinghies and tenders. Well, we've now got the boat inflated and we're assembling the oar system. Anyone that's fumbled with trying to stow oars out of the way or lost an oar overboard will appreciate the way Achilles has attached the oars to the locks without hampering their use. When not in use, they simply fold flat to the boat, clip in, and they're out of the way. And there we are. In the space of a few minutes, we've taken our Achilles from the box to the water, ready to go. It's a nice looking boat, and we think we've made an excellent choice. It rows incredibly easily, even when a little kid rows its stern first. Of course, that's the way little kids want to do it. The air floor and rock-solid stability of our Achilles comes in real handy when I use the dinghy as a camera platform, allowing me to get the kinds of pictures you see here without worrying about leaning over too far and falling out of the boat. How we ever got along without it is beyond me. A final note on maintenance. Because these boats are made from Hypalon, they're infinitely more resistant to wear and tear as well as UV damage, so they're going to last a long, long time. But as most of us have discovered the hard way, the sun will eventually fade and break down anything if left out long enough. If you'd like your investment to pay off for 20 years or more, it's a good idea to rinse it off thoroughly with fresh water after each trip. This gets off salt, sand, and other residues that you might have picked up on your trailer sailing adventure. Then, and most importantly, the Achilles people recommend wiping the boat down thoroughly with a concoction called 303 Protectant. This is a mixture of cleaners, UV shield, and chemical treatment for the hypalon that protects the dinghy from the harsh rays of the sun. It's important to use a protectant that is not silicone-based, as silicone-based products, like the stuff you use on your car, will make the hypalon fabric slippery, and nothing will stick to it, like your registration numbers or your boat name. With 303 Protectant, you get a clean, protected surface, but it's not slippery. Achilles people recommend the 303 treatment every 4 to 6 weeks, and certainly at the end of the season when you roll up and stow the boat. Time to move on. We say goodbye to Mallett's Bay with our trusty dinghy tracking nicely behind us, and we head for Valcour Island. It's another gorgeous day, winds from the southeast 15 to 20, and right away we tuck in a reef. The blow is perfect, and we're on a close reach as we head for the narrow opening to the broad lake itself. Now here's an excellent reason to have a chart of the lake. As large as Mallett's Bay is, there's only one narrow opening, 15 to 20 yards wide to the entire bay. The rest is blocked by a now unused railroad causeway that runs the entire mouth of the bay. There are also water hazards and shallows nearby, so this is one lake that requires constant vigilance. Stay between the cans and nuns when going through the entrance and things will be fine. Outside those cans, it shallows to as little as 3 feet in a couple spots, and that's the last place you want to run aground. Once you're past the causeway, you must still pay attention to the charts as there are rocks breaking the surface about a half-mile out or so. The brisk southerly blows steadily, and the trip across the lake's a bit twisty, and the swells are on the stern quarter, but it's exhilarating. And except for our 3 boats traveling to Valcour together, we only see one more boat on the 15-mile trip across. Amazingly enough, we've gone around 16 miles across this lake and sailed all day between 5 and 6 knots, blasting across the water, and we've never tacked once. It's unbelievable. Because the wind is still blowing southeast around 18 to 22, we go around the island to the northwest side to find a sheltered cove to drop the hook. Fortunately, Valcour Island has a number of great places to shelter from virtually any wind direction. And because we're with a couple of local boats, they've gone straight to a perfect little spot, and we just follow them in. One of the nice things about this Hunter 260 is the ability to raise the keel and rudder to take advantage of a shallow anchorage. With both up, we can anchor in less than 2 feet of water. And that allows us to tuck in tight to the island out of the big breeze still blowing all around us. Now, with the boat secured, we're more than ready for a hops infusion and a little bit of company. My son Colton has commandeered the dinghy and taken his mom over to Karis to chat with our sailing partners and review this exceptional day. He returns to pick me up for a little inter-island exploring. As all 8-year-old boys do, he needs a little shore time, and this island has over 7 miles of hiking trails. While he burns off a little energy, I start thinking about the fascinating history surrounding this island. It was October of 1776, and one of the most significant naval battles of the Revolutionary War took place right here at Valcour Island. General Benedict Arnold, yes, that Benedict Arnold, engaged the British Navy in a vicious battle, trying valiantly to prevent them from sweeping down from Canada and into the heart of our newly founded nation. This drawing from 1776 shows the positions of the two sides as they prepared for the fight. It was to be an ugly one, with the colonials hopelessly overmatched. By all accounts, the fight was a defeat for Arnold's navy, and most of the fleet was sunk or captured. But in losing the battle, he had sown the seeds of victory. By engaging the British at Valcour that fall, the colonials delayed them from moving south until the next spring, giving the revolutionaries the time they needed to strengthen their armies and, of course, ultimately defeat the British. Benedict Arnold himself and a mere handful of men escaped under cover of smoke and darkness and made their way home with the news. Most people don't realize what a hero Arnold really was in the Revolutionary War. It was many years later that the incident occurred that branded him a traitor for the rest of history. What an amazing feeling it was to see our boats sitting here in October, some 2¼ centuries after another October in which another group of boats helped secure our freedom, right here on this same spot. That's pretty cool. I asked our sailing friends what they thought was cool about this lake.
Well, this lake is big enough that the wind is steady. It's not always shifting as it does on smaller lakes. And there's a lot of interest here, and because there's so many places to anchor and different places to sail.
I think my favorite part of the lake is out in the middle on the Broad Lake on a day when you've got 10 or 12 knots blowing across the beam of the boat, and the boat's just cruising, and it's just the sun is shining, and there's just nothing better. That's my favorite part of Lake Champlain.
Lake Champlain is probably one of the great places to come sail other than salt water, because it's a big body of fresh water that replicates about everything we can find on the ocean, which is why we like it. Yet it's warm enough to go swimming and really stay clean and enjoy yourself.
One of my favorite harbors is Converse Bay, which is quite a ways south from here. But it's a good destination, and it's a well-protected place to hide from the weather.
Another favorite place is on the Vermont shore, down at Kingslands Bay, is one of the Vermont state parks, is another favorite place that we go to.
Valcour Island, where we are now, Barn Rock Harbor down near Westport, New York, which is quite a ways south, and Deep Bay, which is about 14 miles north of here. They're all really nice, very picturesque areas that remind you a lot of sailing off the coast of Maine or off the coast of New England and different places. You should be prepared for about as much diverse weather as you could expect on the ocean. It's very calm here, and you could end up motoring most of the day, or you could be out in 4 to 6 foot swells and really have your hands full trying to control your boat. So it's a large body of water, and it can throw a lot at you. But you can spend all day out there and just have a wonderful time.
The next morning found our friends heading home. Some of us have to go to work, they sniffed. We didn't feel too sorry for them since they have this lake to play on all summer, every summer. Since we still had a couple days left on the lake ourselves, we headed south.
All right, now we're going. Here we go, boys and girls.
As if we placed an order with the old skipper personally, the winds had clocked around to the west, heading for a northwest blow. So once again, we had a nice reach towards our next waypoint. As we mentioned before, if you have a chart and the Champlain Cruising Guide, there are a lot of great spots to see in any direction on this lake, so you can almost always find your favorite point of sail and go somewhere fun. More importantly, there are GPS coordinates for virtually any spot in the back of the chart book, and that makes it really handy to be able to punch in your destination and hold a decent course. Keeping an eye out always for the rocks and other water hazards, of course. Today, that course is Shelburne Bay. We're told there are some fun places to see and things to do there, so we say goodbye to the historic and beautiful Valcour Island and set our sights south. One thing to pay attention to here on Champlain is ferry traffic. They're constantly on the water, and they have the right-of-way over a pleasure craft such as ourselves. We've covered about 18 miles now, and we're beginning to lose the wind. If that wind would back a few points more, we could haul up our UK flasher. But then that course would take us back across the lake. I'm thinking we won't make Shelburne without having to motor in, and what's the point in that? So we come around to port, and presto, there's the city of Burlington. Now this looks like fun, and I think it's time for the captain to give the crew a little shore time. We hail the Burlington Community Boathouse on VHF Channel 9, and they give us instructions to a transient slip for the night, and we slide inside the breakwater for the evening. The city of Burlington is the largest city in Vermont and on Lake Champlain. It's a college town with a very active waterfront community. Even during the middle of the week, there's a lot going on both on the water and off. The Burlington Community Boathouse is a classic landmark. We find a city map there that points out a number of watering holes within walking distance of the harbor. After taking a moment to enjoy the day's sail from Valcour, we go in search of sustenance and maybe a bit of grog. One of the most interesting places to spend time off the lake is the amazing and historic Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. Located near the city of Vergennes, about 20 miles south of Burlington, the museum has a growing number of exhibits and a fantastic collection of artifacts, including historic watercraft and even a completely authentic replica of the Revolutionary War gunboat Philadelphia, one of the boats sunk in the Battle of Valcour Island. It was the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum that lent us the slides we showed you earlier in this video about that battle, and of course the images you see here. In fact, the folks at the museum do an annual reenactment of the Battle of Valcour Island, one that they call Rabble in Arms. They've turned it into a neat little video, and it's well worth seeing. Overall, the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum is a simply fascinating place with things to enjoy for both kids and adults, especially their Images of Freedom exhibit. I strongly urge a trip to the museum while visiting here. It's well worth your time. And again, the sense of history is so strong, it is almost overwhelming. Well, the weather has taken a turn for the worse. It is October after all, and we've had fabulous weather up till now, so we're not too disappointed. It's a cold, drizzly day though, and the temperature has dropped into the 40s as we head into Shelburne Bay. Right now, I'm very thankful for the cockpit bimini on this Hunter 260. It's keeping the rain off our heads as we take in the sights of Shelburne. We take a turn through the bay to look at possible anchorages, but we're not in the mood to drop a hook in this weather, so we just top up our gas tank at Shelburne Shipyard and decide to head across the lake for our next destination. We're heading across the broad lake to Willsboro Bay, again taking care to consult the chart for hazards. As we've mentioned before, there are numerous shoals and rock outcroppings scattered throughout this lake, but they're well marked both physically and on the charts. Juniper Island has an abandoned lighthouse, and on a nicer day would be fun to explore. The Four Brothers Islands are a breeding ground for gulls, black-crowned night heron, and other waterfowl, and a great spot to drop a lunch hook. At last, we cross the opening of Willsboro Bay, our last stop on this little voyage. You can see the fall colors for which New England is famous beginning to develop nicely here. The terrain is also a bit different than the rest of the lake, with steep fjord-like formations and sheer sides, both above and below the water. The rain has stopped, and we take an opportunity to sail deep into the bay, passing the Willsboro Bay Marina, where we'll wrap up this trip.
Willsboro Bay Marina has been in existence since the early 1970s. My family, the Kleins, became involved in 1981, and it's now grown to become a center of sailing and powerboating for approximately 200 boaters right in the middle of prime sailing and cruising ground on Lake Champlain. The marina is open to the public and welcomes visitors. Visiting boaters are encouraged to call ahead by telephone or to contact us on Channel 9 on the VHF while cruising the lake. Dock space assignments will be provided and can be made in advance. Lake Champlain has many different segments of the lake that the cruising sailor can enjoy. Willsboro Bay is in the broad center part of the lake, which offers long distances one can sail without tacking. The more adventurous will go cross through the gut and enjoy what the locals call the inland sea of Vermont.
We should point out here that the Klein family did a great deal to make this video possible and deserve our heartfelt thanks for a terrific effort. These are the kind of people that make sailing an unfamiliar lake a memorable adventure. Well, time to drop the hook for our last night on the water. Again, the Bimini on the Hunter 260 proves its worth, and as we settle in for the evening, we marvel at how much fun sailing really is, in almost any weather. New vistas, new friends, history, great time spent together as a family, and a continuing appreciation for Mother Nature and her environment. It's pretty cool. The next morning, we prepare to call this little adventure complete. After a big breakfast, we put them up one last time and try to catch the breeze. It's been an unbelievably good time, and we sure hope we get a chance to come back. The entertainment index for this lake is a 5. Lots of things to do on and off the water, and the history alone is worth the trip. The Serenity index is a 3. While there are tons of nice little anchorages and bays, it was never truly quiet and isolated here. Nearby Air Force Base seemed to be always testing jet engines. Nonetheless, Lake Champlain is a trailer sailor's dream, and we can't say enough about it. Here are some names and numbers you'll find handy when setting up a trip here. If you have further interest in this or other trailer sailing trips, feel free to browse our website. There you'll find useful information about an ever-growing list of sailing adventures and an email link for questions. Reluctantly, we drop the sails for the last time and head home, knowing that Lake Champlain was going to be in our memories for a long, long time. Farewell, and fair winds. Special thanks to Hunter Marine for their contributions to this video. Hunter is proud to be a major sponsor of Trailer Sailor, which allows you to feel the freedom of true trailer sailing. Hunter Marine is very fortunate to be positioned in a recreational industry that allows us to bring to the consumer enjoyment of his or her free time. The history of Hunter Marine speaks for itself. Evolved from the combination of Warren Lure's passion for high-performance sailing and skills learned with his brother John, these third-generation boat builders have logged thousands of miles upon the world's oceans. The Lure brothers' desire for the most advanced sailing technology was fueled by their never-diminishing desire to define innovation on the water. In the past 25 years, that desire has brought Hunter Marine to the forefront of the international sailing industry, with more than 20,000 Hunter boats sailing the world's waters. Hunter Marine, we go the distance.